Hey folks, I'm Tori. Welcome to Bass Strategy. Today we've got part 3 of our reel maintenance series, and today we're doing spinning reels. I've got a Shimano Stradic Ci4 plus reel. Now this spinning reel is a little bit more complicated to take apart, so if you can do this one, you can do most other spinning reels. They're not normally this difficult, and I'll point out the parts that make this one just a little bit more detailed. Shimano has got some great technology in this reel, and because of that there's just a few other things that take a little bit longer, and some of the parts that you have to remove are just take a little bit longer than normal reels. We do have an introduction video that I posted a couple weeks ago. In that video I went over all of the parts that I use, all of the recommendations on solvents, and where to find different parts for your reels if you need to replace them. So I'm going to link that in this video description, and check that out if you missed it. Alright guys, so let's get started. Spinning reel maintenance. Let's go.
Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is take off the handle. This is pretty easy. Turn this around. I'm going to take this knob off now while I'm here. Okay, now I'm going to take off this spool. So now, most spinning reels, pretty easy to take off the side plate. It's just maybe 4 or 5 screws and it pops right off. This one has a few more pieces to take off before I can access the inside that I have to take off. So I'm going to have a couple screws here I'm going to take off. And I also have a screw down in here on the bottom that I have to take off that'll pop off this cap. So I have another hidden screw right up here on top of the handle. I'm going to have to take that off. And now, this silver part will pop off. Put that to the side, and you can see I have a couple more screws here that I'm going to have to take off. So this reel also wants me to take off the rotor in order to take off this side plate as well, which we would have to remove the rotor anyway. Take this nut off. So now that the rotor is up off of here, I can now take this side plate right off. I'm going to leave this on and loose for now. We'll come back to that later. I do want to make sure right away, I want to take a look at this white piece here and see how it slides in to the reel. I'm going to remove it. Just make note of how that slides back in. Because getting back together, I've spent some time trying to figure that out. So now I have access to this inside of this reel. I'm going to take out this main gear. Pull off that little washer. I'm just going to put that aside for now. I'm going to drop this into my cleaning solution. So what I want to do is I want to free this piece so I can pull it up and away from everything entirely without having to dismantle all these little parts. So in order to do that, I have to take apart, I have to unscrew this screw. I'm going to have to unscrew this screw, and there's a bar in here that is going to, that this piece clamps to, that I'm going to rotate off of. There's going to be another screw under there that I have to take out as well, and then finally this will come off, free this piece. Spinning reels normally don't have all of this this little system in here that I'll show you in a moment. Usually it's just 1 or 2 screws and that part will come right off. But this reel in particular makes it a little bit more difficult because of the system that it uses, where this rotates around. It makes it a little bit more difficult to free this piece. So we're going to start working on it now. The first screw, I'm actually going to take this one out first. Then we have a little retainer here. This is going to come out. And there's one of my little worm gears. That's where that sits. Okay. I'm going to take out this screw. So when all that screws out, this little metal piece here should pop up. There it is. I'm going to keep that close with that screw so I know they go together. There's a little bar right here that's keeping this from spinning around where there's another screw where I can access. So I have to slide this out in order to get that. There we go. Use a Q-tip to kind of get it started. Then I'll grab it. See if you can see that. I can grab that out. It's just a little bar. Another one here. Here's the second bar. That slides out. I also have to take out the worm gear as well, which it's getting stuck on. And then I'm going to put my cleaning solution. I'll put the two bars in there as well. And now finally, this will rotate around, and there is my second screw. I'm going to have to take that off, and then this whole thing will come free. This piece comes out as well. Put that in my solution. Now this piece comes out. I'm going to put this inside my cleaning solution, and now this entire piece will come straight out. Take my nut, put that in there, and this entire top spool finally comes out. Now most spinning reels are not, again, they're not that complicated. There's all those little extra pieces that I had to remove to take this part out don't exist in a lot of spinning reels, so it's a lot easier. But like I said, this particular reel has so much going on in it, and this is what makes it so time-consuming. This particular model makes it so time-consuming to clean, to take out all those pieces and then have to put them back together, reassemble them again, because they do sit in a very particular way, and you do have to make sure they go back that same way. So let's get going. So I don't want to disassemble all these little pieces here, so all I'm going to do is just take some of my cleaning solution and just quickly clean this up right now. So I'm going to work on the interior here. This is where a lot of gunk can gather up in here. And kind of spin this gear around and clean it the best I can. I will not be taking this piece out. One trick I like to getting into some tight spaces is peeling off some of the cotton from my cotton swab. Just leaving a little bit on there. And now that can get in some pretty tight spaces. Alright, once you're satisfied with that, I'm going to start just working on the inside of here. Just making sure this is okay. Out comes the bearing. I'm going to reinstall this bearing. I'm going to add a drop of oil to the bearing, kind of rub it around. So this will slide right into the housing nicely. And I'm going to add a drop. To each side, and then put this back aside. While I'm working on the bearings, I'm going to go after this one as well. They just pop right out. I polish it up by hand. Do not put bearings inside your cleaning solution. You just want to get them the old oil off from the outside and just clear the housing that it was sitting in. Sometimes you'll find that's a little dirty. And then you just reapply fresh oil. I just like to do a little drop so it slides back into the housing nicely. And once it's in, I just add a fresh drop to each side. So this piece came out right above here. I'm just going to slide that back in, no grease, no oil. Alright, and now I'm going to start working on these parts. The first, I'm just going to take these all out of the solution now to give them a little bit of a chance to dry while I'm working on each one. Get a little piece of paper towel here. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to work on is this gear here. Should be pretty easy. Going with my cotton swab. Just kind of dry it off. All that old grease should be pretty much broken up and removed from the rubbing alcohol solution. I'll put that aside. Take each one of these little bars, just wipe them dry. These look good. Alright, now we're ready to begin reassembly. Oh, so before we reassemble, we'll take this rotor and make sure this is clean. Clean the outside. This is where all the water is going to splash up. So you're going to see a lot of dirt built up in here, and you can really access it all pretty easily right now. So once you're ready, you can put this back over the top and put this through. So now this small piece is going to go in here. The flat side of the shaft is going to go through the flat side like this. And now I have to reinstall that screw. Okay. So again, if you do not have this reel, you probably don't have to worry about putting a part like this together, but if you do have a Stradic, when you're putting it back together, make sure you put this back screw in the right spot so it kind of tucks in here, so that when this piece flips over, it's not exposed. It's not going to be exposed out here. If you screw this in on the wrong side, you will not be able to put the rest of the reel back together again. It won't fit correctly, so make sure you put that screw in tucked into that housing. So the first thing we're going to want to put in is this worm gear. So I'm going to put a little bit of grease on there. That's about it. There's two sides to this. You can see there's the long side and the short side. Long side's going to go up into the reel, and this will be exposed on the bottom. Okay. See, now that's sticking out too much. And I'm going to make sure that goes in there, but before I do, I want to secure all the other pieces so they're not sliding around. So my shield goes right in pretty obviously. Put this little screw back on. Okay. I'm going to put these two bars back in. And now this is the white retainer that goes in with this gear, worm gear. And you will see as I go to slide this into place, it will need to slide in completely flush in order to put the rest of this back together again. So what I'm going to need to do is spin that gear until it finds its resting place right there like that. And then the big test will be when you go to put this in. It slides in. It'll slide in completely flush. Then I can take this piece and put it back in. And here we go. So now the rest of this is a lot easier. So now that we got all this all cleaned out, now we can begin to service the rest of the reel more normal, more like other spinning reels. It becomes a lot easier. We have this piece here we need to reinstall. And I'm also going to take the time to put in a couple drops of fresh oil into these gears that we cleaned out. And you don't need too much, but I do like to spin it around a little bit. Make sure that gets worked in. Now this piece, I'm going to put a little bit of grease on here. I'm actually going to rub it around, just to protect this part from the moisture that it might encounter over the course of next year. Let's not forget our piece that we took out, a little metal washer. And I'm going to put some fresh grease in between the teeth here. This is going to work its way into the gear on the other end, so we don't need too much. I'm going to slide this in. I'm going to give it a spin and let it work its way through. That's where this piece comes back in. We're going to reinstall it. And it's always a little confusing how this goes back into me, but there it is. This will sit back on here. And now we can begin to reinstall this side plate. Well, everyone, I realized that I have installed my anti-reverse sleeve backwards. So now this doesn't have anti-reverse. So I have to take everything back apart again, which was a bummer realization, but I got up and I took a drink of water, and now I'm going to have to take this apart all over again. So don't do that. Don't take it off backwards and then install it and then have to go back and unscrew everything again. All those little parts. So unfortunately there's no way around it because I have to take off this. In order to take off this rotor, I have to take off this part again. So there's really not much I can do, so I'm just going to go ahead and do it, and I'll show you when I reassemble it. I'll show you what not to do. Well, here we go. Okay, back out to this step. So this sleeve that you saw me put in, so now this sleeve doesn't want to come out, which is a real bummer. So what am I going to do? I'm going to take off this black piece, I guess, and I don't love doing that, but because there's just more fun stuff going on under there, but I'm just going to have to do my best to keep everything in place. Alright, if you ever do take these screws off for some reason, you want to be really careful. as you take this off. There's all little springs in here. I just do not like taking that off. There, that's how you access, that's how you access that in there to get that back out again. And while I'm in here, I'm just going to give a drop of oil to this little spring in here. Might as well. And now I'm ever so carefully going to put this back on. So this sleeve needs to go down like this. Tapers downward, goes downward into the reel, so don't put it in backwards like I did. Just kind of... And it always hurts, never hurts to double check that your anti-reverse is working before assembling your reel again. So now I will reassemble my reel all over again. Here we go. Okay, back to the part where we can put our side plate back on. At last, okay. Just get a couple of screws in here. You're not going to believe this. Forgot to put my nut back in. Which means I have to take this whole thing apart again. That's really unbelievable. I don't know how I did that. Alright, well, no, I'm not going to waste any time, you know? So in case you didn't catch it all the first time, I'm going to take this whole thing apart again. So now, I can put this where it belongs. Then this will go through. And we can finally reassemble this correctly, hopefully. Alright. Now we'll take the screws here and finally get the side plate back together. Alright, so now this is reinstalled. This piece here I can put back on. Alright. I'm not going to put my handle on yet. I still need to clean off my spool and clean out the drag system. So, what I'm going to do is take off this cap. And this is pretty standard for spinning reels. This very similar system, very easy to clean. What you're going to just want to keep an eye on how everything is ordered in here. And after that, it's pretty easy. So I'm just going to take this clip out. that there for now. And then there is a metal locking washer. I'm going to put this in my alcohol solution. And here comes the rest of them. So now there's a series. There's a little felt washer. Leave that out. Metal in the solution. Felt. Leave it out. The bottom lock. Put that into the solution, and then my last felt piece. And I'm going to clean out the interior of here. Just take a little bit of my solution on a cotton swab and clean it all out. And now I'm going to also take the time to just clean off the rest of this spool. This is where I'm expecting there to be some dirt built up in here where the line goes. So just take some time and really scrub it up here. Now, same kind of deal. I kind of want to make sure that I take out these metal pieces, give them a chance to dry off a little bit before I reassemble. So take these out, rub off all the old grease. And now we're going to clean off each one of these felt pieces just by taking a dry paper towel and gently patting them dry. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little bit of the grease, put a little bit on my fingertip, and I'm going to rub in the bottom of this. Just rub in there, just a little bit of grease. Take a little Q-tip and help spread it out in there. Then I'm going to take some more, take my first washer, and just do a light coating on here. You don't need too much. It does absorb a little bit as well, so not much. Really just enough where it just feels a little bit sticky, tacky even, you know? It's really all you need. I'll put that on the bottom. And to help push it down, I'm just going to take my tool and just pat it down in there, like so. And you have this piece here. I'm just going to coat it with, my hands are already a little bit have a little bit of that grease on there, and just coat it. And this one's going to go on the bottom. Followed by the next washer. I'm going to put that in there. Use my tool to help push it down. Then we get another spacer. Let's coat this with grease. This goes in. There are little notches where this sits in on the side. Just make sure it's all in there. And then my last washer. that in. Push this down. I'll take my last piece here. Put that in. And just push it down gently. There it is. Now I'm going to take this piece right here and just clean off the old grease from the opposite side. Maybe get underneath here really well. Then just take a little dab. Just coat it on here gently, lightly. Drop that back into place. Tighten it down. I like to tighten it all the way, make sure it's working correctly. It is, and then I can back off for the storage. Nice and smooth. And finally, I put my handle back on. And that's it. A very well cleaned spinning reel. Ready to go for next year.
Alright guys, I hope you liked that video. Not too bad taking apart a spinning reel. Like I said, if you can do this spinning reel, I've taken apart many other spinning reels before. This one just takes a little bit longer because of the intricacies that Shimano builds into the reels. But if you have just like a Fluger or even a Quantum spinning reel, they should be a lot easier than this one. So if you like this video, give me that like and consider subscribing to the channel. Next week we are doing a full bearing replacement in one of my reels. So we'll see you then.